Wife demanded to open our marriage while I was deployed, saying she couldn't control her urges. I, 37 meme, have been married to Sharon 39F for 6 years. Known her for 10. I'm in the Marines, deployed 6 to 7 months every year as a logistics officer. Yeah, it's tough, but we both knew what we were getting into when we got married. My job pays really well. I make around $120,000 with all the benefits and combat pay, which lets us live pretty comfortably. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue back in 2014. Back then, I was already in the Marines, and she was teaching elementary school, making about $45,000 a year. She seemed different from other women I dated. She understood the military lifestyle since her dad was also in the service for 25 years. Plus, she was independent, had her own career, and didn't just want me for the benefits like some military wives I'd known. After dating for 4 years, we got married in a beautiful ceremony with all our friends and family there. Her dad, being a veteran himself, was especially proud to have another military man in the family. The first few years were great. She was supportive of my career, proud of my service, and we made the most of our time together when I was home. When I was deployed, she kept herself busy with teaching, her book club, and our friend group. Lots of other military wives who understood what she was going through. We had a system that worked. Weekly video dates, care packages, and she'd fly out to meet me at some ports when possible. I even bought her a nice 4-bedroom house in a good neighborhood near her school, got her a new car every few years, and made sure she had everything she needed. She always said she didn't mind the deployments because the time we had together was worth it, and she was proud to be a military wife. We talked about having kids eventually, but agreed to wait until I could get a desk job since she didn't want to raise them alone half the year. Life was perfect until everything went to, well, things started changing about 6 months ago, though. I didn't see it at first. Sharon started going out more with a new group of friends from her yoga class, mostly single women or divorced moms from her school. She'd post pictures of their girls' nights at fancy restaurants and clubs, places we used to go together. I didn't think much of it then, figured she was just trying to stay busy while I was away. She also started caring more about her appearance, buying expensive clothes, and getting her hair done every few weeks. Again, I thought maybe she was just treating herself with the money I was making. She even joined a gym with a personal trainer, saying she wanted to feel good about herself. Now looking back, all these changes were red flags I missed. We were having our regular date night over video call. I had just gotten back on the ship about 3 to 4 weeks ago. These video dates were our thing. We'd both get dressed up nice, have dinner, and wine together, even though we were apart. It helped keep us connected. This particular night, I was having a great time telling her about some funny things that happened during training that day. Then out of nowhere, she says, "I have something to say. Let's open our marriage." I thought I misheard her at first. The wine went down the wrong pipe and I started coughing. When I looked at the screen again, hoping to see her laughing at my reaction, she had this dead serious look on her face. She started explaining her reasoning. Of the time she said it was practically impossible for any woman to control her urge for 6 months, and she was tired of the cycle. She'd been dealing with deployments for over a decade, counting our dating years, and claimed she'd forgotten what it was like to have sex whenever she wanted. Half her life was spent craving, apparently. The way she talked about our marriage, reducing it to just sex, made me feel sick. I couldn't wrap my head around what she was saying. After 10 years together, 6 of them married, she springs this on me. I took a deep breath and said, "Look, I get it's hard for you. I appreciate everything you do to keep us going, but this is what my job requires. The distance isn't something I can change right now." We'd had talks about deployment challenges before, early in our marriage. We even discussed me switching to a desk job, but opportunities never lined up, and honestly, I love what I do. Sharon knew that and seemed to support it, at least until now. She got all pissed off when I tried to have a rational discussion. I suggested we talk about it later when we're both calmer, but she insisted on settling it right then. She went off again about how lonely she is, spending birthdays and anniversaries alone, going to doctor appointments by herself. She started crying while talking about all this. Look, I get it's tough. I miss plenty of important moments too, but what the hell am I supposed to do about it? This is literally what she signed up for when she married me. When we first got married, lots of people told us to have a kid to keep her occupied during deployments. But Sharon wasn't ready to be a single parent half the year, and I agreed dumping that responsibility on her wasn't fair. So we decided no kids until I got a desk job. Now I'm wondering if that decision made her loneliness worse. But still, opening the marriage? That's crazy. I asked if she was breaking up with me. She goes, "No, I love you. I can never leave you. I want to grow old with you. But I'm about to turn 40, and in a few more years, I'll hit menopause. I have so little time to enjoy my sexuality. Half of my golden years are just waiting for you. I don't want that. I want to live a fulfilling life and not die with regret." Never in our relationship had she talked about sex like this. We always had a great physical connection when I was home. Sure, we used toys and video calls to stay intimate during deployments, but she never complained it wasn't enough. I could tell this conversation wasn't going anywhere good. She wasn't asking permission. She was telling me what she was going to do. "What exactly do you want?" I asked, even though I was scared to hear the answer. She looked right at me through the screen and said, "I want to open this marriage and meet other men. I have needs, and they need to be met. I'm doing this whether you like it or not." The woman I married, who promised to be faithful through everything, was sitting there telling me she was going to sleep with other guys, and I couldn't do anything about it. I tried staying calm, even though I wanted to punch something. "So you want to sleep with other men while still being married to me?" When she nodded, I asked how this would help with the loneliness she was complaining about. Would these random guys take care of her when she's sick or celebrate her birthday? She said she didn't know if it would just be physical or if she'd date them, but whatever happened, she loved me and only me. They'd just be fillers while I was gone. When I'm home, she'd be all mine. Like I'm supposed to be okay sharing my wife half the year. I asked how long this was going to last. A few years or forever? She hadn't decided. I asked if she'd already cheated on me. She snapped that if she wanted to cheat, she wouldn't be having this conversation. She thought being honest about wanting to be with other guys was better than lying about it. Some twisted logic there. I asked if I had any say in this. She said her mind was made up. If she didn't do this, she'd go crazy. My head was pounding. I told her I needed time to think. She just hung up without saying goodbye. You know what makes this whole thing more messed up? I just left home 3 to 4 weeks ago after spending 3 months together. Everything seemed perfect during my leave. We went to Hawaii for our second honeymoon, fixed up the house like she wanted, and even talked about finally trying for a baby next year. She was all lovey-dovey the whole time, constantly talking about our future together. The day I left, she was crying and making all these plans for my next leave. We'd even started putting money aside for our future kid. I was looking into positions at the local base to be home more. That's how serious we were about starting a family. When I asked the next day why she didn't bring any of this up while I was there, she said she didn't feel the need for other men when I was around. That's when it clicked. She probably met someone at her new gym or through those single friends. The timing was too convenient. Just before I left, she'd mentioned this new personal trainer at her gym who was so motivating and had been giving her extra attention. I didn't think anything of it then, but now the way she was pushing for this right after I left, it felt planned. Part of me wanted to believe this was just about loneliness, but I'm not that naive. My buddy Mike went through something similar last year. His wife asked for an open marriage during his deployment, and it turned out she was already seeing someone. They're divorced now. I asked Sharon again if this was really what she wanted, if she'd thought about what it would do to us, to all our plans for the future. She said yes without hesitating, like those 3 months of planning our life together meant nothing. I decided to push her on the details, not because I was considering it, but to understand her twisted logic. I asked about the setup. Could I see other women? How we'd handle money? Her answer showed how selfish this whole thing was. She said she hadn't thought that far ahead. She just wanted someone for her needs while I was gone. But when I'm home, it would be just us. She said I could try stuff during port days, but wouldn't be with other women when I'm home since she'd be there. According to her brilliant plan, we'd see how it goes and maybe close the marriage again once she was done exploring. I'd had enough. Look, this isn't what I signed up for. I wanted a monogamous marriage, but since you've made up your mind, I won't stop you. Just remember, there will be consequences. She had the nerve to ask what I was going to do about it. I calmly told her first, she'd need to handle her own expenses. No more money in our joint account. Second, we'd cut all communication. I don't want calls or texts while she's busy with her business. Third, I might start seeing other women too, with no rules from her. She giggled and said she knew I'd come along, said she was excited and it would be fun. Then she went, I know you won't go too far. How can you leave such a ravishing beauty?" and started taking her clothes off. I shut that down fast. "My conditions start now. Have fun." Then I hung up. That was it. I stopped giving a about her. She tried reaching out, but I ignored everything. She started posting these obvious date night photos and vacation pics without showing the guys. But come on, a hot tub selfie with rose petals, candles, and 2 wine glasses? Not hard to figure out what's going on. Her sister texted asking if I knew what Sharon was doing. I told her straight up. Her sister opened the marriage without my consent because she's lonely between her legs. Sharon blew up my phone after that, but I couldn't care less. My next shore leave starts next week. I've already got my brother looking for an apartment. Told him and my parents the whole story. Also hired a lawyer to start working on my case. I'm not rushing anything, want to do this right. Got plans to make her regret her choices. As this situation unfolded, I noticed something interesting. People always seem to sympathize with military wives. Poor thing has to live alone even though she's married. Whatever. Anyway, I posted everything on social media, not to be petty, but to show her I wasn't sitting around miserable without her. My shore leave usually involves these high-profile military parties, real fancy events at 5-star hotels that Sharon always loved going to. Not everyone gets invited to these things. It's mostly senior officers and their wives, politicians, important people in town. These parties were a big deal for her social status. She loved showing off her expensive dresses and getting attention. I made sure to post plenty of pictures, including ones with female colleagues who are way more successful than her, doctors, lawyers, business owners. When people asked about Sharon, I just told them the truth. She wanted an open marriage to around while I was deployed. Words spread fast in our circle, and suddenly all these military wives who used to kiss her ass started unfriending her. At first, when she saw my family pictures online, she just texted asking where I was staying and why I wasn't home. Then she changed to, "Okay, I'll give you space. I'll wait for you," like she was doing me a favor. But when she saw the party pictures, she lost it. Started messaging about how I abandoned her and asking if we didn't agree to be normal when I was home. Then she started drunk texting at 2 a.m. about how much she missed our life together and how all these other guys meant nothing. I didn't respond to any of it. After months of silence, I finally replied, "I never agreed. You did what you wanted. Now I'm doing what I want." She sent back some nonsense about waiting for me to come back when I'm done, like I'm some kid acting out. She really thought she could just put our marriage on pause while she had her fun, then press play when she was done exploring. Things took another turn when my lawyer advised me to document everything, so I started collecting screenshots of her messages, social media posts, and any evidence that could help my case. She had no idea I was building a legal strategy. During my shore leave, I discovered more shocking details. Turns out, her personal trainer wasn't just motivating her in the gym. They'd been seeing each other for months before she even proposed the open marriage. Classic cheating strategy, test the waters by asking for permission after the fact. I found out through mutual friends that she was telling everyone I agreed to the open marriage. When people started questioning her, she changed her story multiple times. First, she said I was totally cool with it. Then when people pressed her, she claimed we were discussing it. My military community is tight-knit. News travels fast, especially something like this. Her reputation started crumbling. The wives' support groups she was part of began distancing themselves. Her teaching colleagues started hearing rumors. During one of her desperate late-night calls, she admitted the trainer had been pursuing her for months. She claimed she resisted at first, but eventually gave in because she was lonely. Classic manipulation tactic. I decided to get strategic. I started the divorce process quietly, transferred most of our joint savings to a separate account my lawyer recommended, stopped all financial support. She was about to learn expensive lessons about independence. The most satisfying part? Her family started seeing through her lies. Her sister, who initially texted me asking what was happening, now completely sided with me. Her parents were mortified by her behavior. Her dad, a retired veteran, was particularly disappointed. He called me personally, apologizing for his daughter's actions, said he raised her better than this, and was ashamed of how she disrespected our marriage and military commitment. The trainer? Turned out he was married too. When his wife found out, she divorced him immediately. Suddenly, Sharon's great love vanished. No more fancy gym dates, no more romantic getaways. By the time my shore leave ended, everything was in motion. Divorce papers were prepared, financial assets were protected, and her social circle had completely transformed. The woman who thought she could have it all was now facing complete isolation. I'm not seeking revenge. I'm seeking justice and protecting my future. The situation finally reached its conclusion. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. My lawyer was ex-military and understood exactly how to handle these situations. We had rock-solid evidence of her infidelity. Her own messages became our strongest weapon. By the time everything was finalized, Sharon lost almost everything. 1. Her teaching job. The school board discovered her actions and terminated her contract. Most of her social circles completely cut her off. 2. She was forced to move out of the house I purchased. 3. Minimal alimony due to her infidelity. 4. Zero access to my military benefits. 5. Her personal trainer disappeared completely once his own marriage collapsed. The guys she thought would be her support system vanished faster than morning dew. Her personal trainer disappeared completely once his own marriage collapsed. The guys she thought would be her support system vanished faster than morning dew. Her family was devastated. Her father, a retired veteran, was so ashamed he barely spoke to her. Her mother kept apologizing to me, saying they raised her better. The most ironic part, she begged for an open marriage because she felt sexually unfulfilled during my deployments. Now she was completely alone, jobless, and reputation destroyed. I've moved on. Currently dating someone who understands and respects military life. Someone who believes in commitment and understands what partnership truly means. To all military spouses out there, loyalty isn't just a word, it's a commitment.